Hi friends, in this video I'm gonna discuss about the host file. Host file can be used to block websites from your computer. I'll tell you when it will be helpful. So during this pandemic time where most of the students are attending online classes, parents might have to give their laptops to the younger ones. This is a very easy way to block unwanted websites in your computer and restrict your kids from accessing it. Please watch this video full so that you get the complete understanding. Alright, so what is this host file? The host file is used to map host names to IP address in your computer. The path for the host file is like when you open C drive, there will be a folder called Windows. Inside Windows there will be System32 and then drivers etc. So inside this etc folder there will be some files, so in that you can see this host file. Now let me explain in a simpler way. The website which you enter in the browser address bar, say www.youtube.com or amazon.in, etc. These are not the actual address of the web server where the websites are hosted. These web servers will have an IP address or multiple IP address. The internet or the World Wide Web understand these servers through IP addresses. But for a common man, it's difficult to remember all these numbers and all, like the IP addresses. Hence, we have to use these domain names, or hence we have these domain names instead of IP addresses like youtube.com, facebook.com and all those. So how will the internet understand when we enter a host name like www.youtube.com? DNS. So DNS or domain name service maps this domain name to an IP address. To find out the actual IP address of a website or URL, you can open the command prompt in your desktop and type nslookup space the website name or the domain name. Then you get the IP address just like this. So in this example, 52.84.4.47 is the IP address of www.amazon.in. So what we do in this host file is we can manually map a host name with any random IP addresses. Like we can tell the desktop that when someone enter the host name like amazon.in, instead of going to 52.84.4.47, it should go to this IP address. We can give any random IP address. Like we give an IP address like 127.0.0.1 to youtube.com. So when we enter youtube.com, instead of going to the actual address of YouTube, it goes to 127.0.0.1. This IP address 127.0.0.1 is the loopback IP. As my YouTube channel name says, there is no place like that. It's your PC itself, so YouTube won't open for you. You can also redirect websites using this host file, but nowadays, since we have enhanced security mechanisms like HSTS, those won't work. Like our browser itself will restrict us from accessing a domain name which has a different IP address than it has. So how these host files can be used? Host files can be used in many ways. In general, mostly the web developers use it to test the functionalities of their websites before it is going live. Then you can use it to create shortcut for accessing any server inside your intranet or your local network. Suppose a developer is hosting something and some website, some web page, so he need to access it every time using the IP address. Instead of that, he can just give a host name, like a shortcut name. So these are the two main uses of host file in the corporate world. This is also a very easy way to do the parental control, as I told, like by blocking the websites, especially during this pandemic, as I mentioned earlier. So you can block any social media websites or anything else by using this host file. Alright, let's check how we can do that. I gave all this information just to make you understand what a host file is. So now I'm gonna show you how to block it. For editing the host file, first you need to run Notepad as administrator. You can right click on Notepad and run as administrator. Now you need to open the host file in this. So here is where we enter the path. So the path is C Windows System 32 drivers etc. Here you need to change this to all files, and here is the host file. You need to change the properties as the read-only option should be unchecked so that you can edit it. So this is the host file. The format is quite simple. The IP address space host name. So here I'm trying to ping www.youtube.com, and we can see that reply from 142 IP. So that is nothing but the web server of YouTube, and these are the IPs where www.youtube resolved to. So I'm trying to redirect YouTube to the loopback IP address, which is 127.0.0.1, which is nothing but the system's IP, which I'm just trying to check whether YouTube opens in my system. Now I've saved it. So now we need to clear the browsing data at least for an hour. I've cleared it. Now if you try to open YouTube, it doesn't work. You can see this. So you can make a new entry as well, like multiple entries. 0.2 for facebook.com, .3 for Twitter, .4 will give for Instagram. Now when I save this, all these social media sites are blocked in my PC. So this is a quite useful way for parents, especially during this pandemic, when you give laptop to your kids. Like, you can restrict them from accessing unwanted websites. All these websites are not opening for me. Instagram.com says the site can't be reached. If you try to ping YouTube right now, let's see from where I get the reply back. I get the reply back from the IP which I gave, which is 127.0.0.1. For Facebook, I'll get it from 0.2, as you can see now. So if you add a hash to the starting of the line, it means that the line is disabled. So the Instagram opens now, Twitter opens now, same like that, all websites will open now. So in case if you want to access any site which you have blocked already, you just can add a hash and access it. Then you can just remove it if you don't want it. So now I'll show you how I can access my router page without an IP address. You usually access it with an IP address, right? How you can find that IP address? You need to type ipconfig, and the default gateway will be the IP address of router and the IPv4 address. This is the IP address of your computer. So we need to type that router's IP address and the router page opens. So I'm gonna make this a host name which I decide. So let's just give www.myrouter.com and save it. Okay, now when I type www.myrouter.com in the address bar, you can see the router page opens. So this is a way which these developers and all use while accessing something which they have hosted in the intranet or in the internal network. They can just give a random host name for the IP address which they have hosted. So I'm trying to nslookup irctc.com. So I got an IP address which starts with 103, and it's opening with the IP address. So now I'm going to show you how we can redirect websites. Actually, it doesn't work in these situations. Like right now, before it used to work, I'll explain the scenario. I've given amazon.in for that IRCTC website. So if I type amazon.in, it should open IRCTC. But you can see this error, HSTS. What does that mean? HSTS is nothing but HTTP strict transport security. That is something like if you change the IP address for a domain name. So this HSTS restrict you from accessing it. So these are like new enhanced security mechanisms which are in place now. So due to this, we cannot redirect websites in host file these days. Like before it was possible. Before, in the sense when these technologies came. Yep. So that's all. If you have any questions or if you face any issues while doing this, please comment down. I'll try to reply at the earliest. If you find this video helpful, please like and share this video and kindly subscribe to my channel. Thank you.